life of Shikamaru Nara from Naruto. Shikamaru Nara is a shinobi of Konohagakure's Nara clan. Though lazy by nature, Shikamaru has a rare intellect that consistently allows him to prevail in combat. The responsibilities that these successes leave him with cause him frequent annoyance, but he gladly accepts them so that he may be of service to his fellow members of Team Asuma, and to prove himself to generations of the past and future. Welcome to the Amagi. In today's video, we're going over the life of Shikamaru Nara. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Background: Shikamaru is the only child of Yoshino and Shikaku Nara. When he was young, he once played ninja with other children his age. Choji Akamichi wanted to play with them, but the other children refused to allow him to do so, claiming he was too stupid to participate. When Shikamaru couldn't convince the others to let Choji in, he left the game and went to his favorite spot to watch clouds. Choji happened to be sitting in the same spot when he got there, so Shikamaru introduced himself and invited Choji to watch the clouds with him. Choji asked Shikamaru if he wanted some snacks. From that point onward, they were best friends. Upon entering Konoha's Ninja Academy, they'd usually sit together in class and hang out afterwards. Shikamaru had very little interest in the class itself, preferring to spend his time sleeping rather than listening to Iruka Umino's lessons. Shikamaru showed the same lack of enthusiasm for the tests he was given and couldn't be bothered to actually answer the questions, leading to his poor grades. Prologue: Land of Waves. Upon graduating from the academy, Shikamaru was added to Asuma Sarutobi's Team 10, along with Choji Akamichi and Ino Yamanaka. In the anime, Shikamaru is surprised that Naruto Uzumaki also graduated since Naruto failed their in-class graduation exam. Chūnin Exams. Despite how recently they graduated from the academy, Asuma enters Team 7 in the Chūnin Exams being held in Konoha. Shikamaru agrees to participate, but nevertheless complains repeatedly about the competition with the many other participating genin, especially his recent fellow graduates, the members of Team 7 and Team 8. For the first stage of the exams, they are given a written test with 10 questions too difficult for the standard genin to be able to answer, and for which reason participants are expected to cheat without getting caught. Ino uses her mind-body switch technique on Shikamaru to fill out his exam sheet with answers she copied from Sakura Haruno. In the anime, Shikamaru is glad for Ino's intervention as he didn't want to bother answering the questions on his own. Team 10 ultimately passes. For the second stage of the exams, Team 10 enters the Forest of Death to take part in a 5-day survival exercise. Team 10 initially spends their time avoiding conflict, hiding whenever they come across another team. When they discover Sakura defending her teammates from a team of Oto Nin by herself, Shikamaru asks Ino if they should help her. Ino decides to, and Shikamaru drags Choji along to provide additional support. Team 10 initiates formation Ino Shikacho. Choji attacks Zaku Abumi with human bullet tank, Shikamaru immobilizes Doso, and Ino uses her mind-body switch on Kin Tsuchi. Ino tries to use Kin as a hostage, but Zaku opts to attack Kin himself rather than let her be used against him. Too tired to offer much more of a fight, Team 10 wonders what to do. When Sasuke regains consciousness, Shikamaru has them withdraw, sensing that Sasuke can deal with the Oto Nin on his own. After passing the second stage, the remaining genin take part in one-on-one preliminary matches. Shikamaru, to his annoyance, is matched against Kin, who uses bells tied with strings to distract Shikamaru, giving her an opening to attack him with Senbon. In the anime, the bells also produce a genjutsu, further disorienting Shikamaru. Shikamaru alters his shadow's shape and directs it to Kin under the cover of the strings she's been holding onto, allowing him to ensnare her without her notice. After revealing his technique, he takes a shuriken from his holster and throws it, forcing Kin to do the same. Shikamaru dodges Kin's shuriken by bending backwards, forcing her to dodge his shuriken in the same way. Upon doing this, Kin knocks her head against the wall behind her, rendering her unconscious, ensuring Shikamaru's victory. When the preliminaries conclude, Shikamaru and the other finalists are informed who their first opponents will be when they reconvene after a month of rest and training. Because there are an odd number of finalists, Shikamaru is scheduled to fight Dosu in an additional match. Shikamaru is frustrated that he'll need to do additional work if he's to win the tournament. From listening to the third Hokage's explanation about how the finals will be handled, Shikamaru speculates that one doesn't need to actually win the tournament in order to be promoted to Chūnin, which the third confirms when Shikamaru asks him. Genin are promoted based on performance, not wins or losses. After they disperse, Choji overeats in an effort to console himself for losing his preliminary match, sending him to the Konoha hospital. While Shikamaru is visiting him there the day before the finals, he also visits Naruto, who's recovering from his training. As Shikamaru and Naruto are talking, they notice Gaara entering Rock Lee's room, intent on killing him. Shikamaru stops him with his shadow and tries to convince Gaara to leave by pointing out that he and Naruto outnumber him, but Gaara isn't deterred. After telling them a little about his childhood, Gaara prepares to kill them, his sand not being inhibited by Shikamaru's shadow. Might Guy arrives before he can do anything else to them and forces Gaara to leave. When the finalists gather the next day, Shikamaru is informed that his match with Dosu has been cancelled, and that he'll instead be fighting Tamari of Suna in his first match. When it's time to fight, he contemplates forfeiting, but Naruto wrongly assumes he's eager to get started and shoves him into the arena. Tamari attacks him when he's slow to get up, but he dodges at the last moment, deciding he doesn't want to lose to a girl. Shikamaru retreats to the cover of some nearby trees and uses the threat of his shadow to force Tamari to keep her distance. While she ascertains his shadow's maximum reach, Shikamaru formulates a strategy, doing so quickly enough to be ready when Tamari attacks from afar with her giant folding fan. He takes shelter behind the trees and strikes out with his shadow again, extending farther towards her than before, the setting sun lengthening the shadow's range. Tamari dodges this and his other attempts to let his shadow reach further, forcing her to repeatedly move away from him to avoid it. She attempts to finish the fight quickly, expecting things will only become easier for Shikamaru as the fight goes on, when she finds herself already caught. Shikamaru has been maneuvering her towards a hole in the ground created during Naruto's earlier match, which allowed him to catch her with his shadow form underground, capturing her from behind. Shikamaru approaches Tamari, apparently to deliver a finishing blow. He forfeits instead, claiming that even if he won this match, he spent too much chakra to be able to safely fight in later matches. The observing older ninja are impressed by the wisdom of this decision, but Naruto is upset and enters the arena to accuse Shikamaru of stupidity. When Sasuke arrives in the arena for his match with Gaara, Shikamaru and Naruto head back to the stands to spectate. They cross paths with Gaara moments after he murders two Kusanin and are paralyzed by the realization that he would have killed them had the Kusanin not been there. Naruto becomes fearful of what Gaara will do to Sasuke and runs off to cancel the match. When Shikamaru catches up, he's amused to see that Naruto's concern for Sasuke's safety has suddenly become jealousy for Sasuke's improved abilities. Konoha Crush. Sasuke and Gaara's match is interrupted by an invasion of Konoha, and a genjutsu puts most of the spectators to sleep. Shikamaru is able to dispel the genjutsu, but he still pretends to be asleep anyway so that nobody will bother him. This is discovered by Sakura when she comes over to wake him and Naruto up, and Pakun forces him to get up by biting his ankle. Having overheard Kakashi Hatake's instructions for the four of them to stop Sasuke from pursuing Gaara, Shikamaru flatly refuses, prompting Pakun to bite his hand until he agrees. As they head away from the stadium, Pakun informs them that they're being followed by 9 Oto Nin. Because they're outnumbered and because none of them are particularly good fighters, Shikamaru explains that their best option is to lay an ambush, a task he volunteers for while the others continue to follow Sasuke. Shikamaru creates false tracks to lead the Oto Nin down a different trail, and then captures them with his shadow once he's near them. Shikamaru notices that he's only captured 8 Oto Nin and hypothesizes that the 9th kept his distance in case of ambush. Shikamaru tests his theory by throwing shuriken at the 8, forcing the 9th to reveal his location in order to block the shuriken. Shikamaru can't reach the 9th with his shadow and in fact is about to lose his bind on the other 8, but he holds them for as long as he can. Once he's forced to release them, he prepares to be killed, but is saved by Asuma, who has dealt with the 9th Oto Nin and quickly defeats the others. Asuma congratulates Shikamaru for his good work and tells him to rest. A few days later, after the invasion has been repelled, Shikamaru attends the 3rd Hokage's funeral. Sasuke recovery mission. Even though the Chūnin exams were interrupted, and even though he lost his match, Shikamaru's performance was enough to earn him a promotion to Chūnin, as the only candidate promoted that exam. Team 10 goes to Yakiniku Q to celebrate, after which Shikamaru trains with his father, Shikaku. Although Shikaku wants to resume the training early the next morning, Shikamaru is summoned before Tsunade, the new Hokage. She informs him that Sasuke has defected from Konoha in order to join with Orochimaru, the man behind the invasion. Shikamaru notes a team of Chūnin and Jonin should be sent after Sasuke, but Tsunade explains that this is impossible, the village being too understaffed in the aftermath of Orochimaru's invasion. The only Sasuke recovery team she can allow is one led by Shikamaru and consisting of any genin he sees fit to recruit in half an hour. Tsunade recommends Naruto's inclusion, and Shikamaru insists on also including Choji. Kiba Inuzuka and Neji Hyuga are likewise recruited. After leaving the village, the recovery team comes across Sasuke's escorts, the Sound 4. Shikamaru has Neji scout the area and then has him loudly report Sasuke's presumed location, within a coffin the Sound 4 are carrying. The Sound 4 hear this, and when they attack, Shikamaru takes the opportunity to capture the 4 of them with his shadow. He didn't count on the presence of a 5th member, however, who attacks him and forces him to release them. Jirobo then captures them with his Earth Prison Dome of magnificent nothingness. Kiba uses Fang passing Fang in an attempt to break 3, but the prison only heals the damage. Shikamaru notices that the damage heals more slowly in one area, and by engaging Jirobo in conversation, Shikamaru confirms that it's the point farthest from him. He has Choji attack that area, and they successfully escape. Jirobo will need to be distracted if they're to continue pursuing the rest of the Sound 4. Shikamaru volunteers, but Choji insists on being given the responsibility, promising to defeat Jirobo. Shikamaru agrees on the condition that Choji catch up with him after he's won. Shikamaru makes a point to mark their route as they go for Choji to follow. He realizes, however, that it may become necessary for each of them to fight a member of the Sound 4 alone, like Choji is doing, and warns the others to be prepared for this. When they catch up with the Sound 4, Kidomaru tries to delay them, and Neji remains behind to fight Kidomaru. When they catch up again with Sakon and Tayuya, they try to use their superior numbers to their advantage. Although they do succeed in taking Sasuke from them, Sasuke is quickly taken back by the Sound 4's backup, Kimimaro. Kiba and Sakon end up being separated from their respective teams, and Naruto goes after Kimimaro to retrieve Sasuke, leaving Shikamaru to fight Tayuya. Tayuya berates Shikamaru for systematically sacrificing all the members of his team in order to rescue Sasuke, but Shikamaru rebuts that, as team leader, he has faith in each of them. She summons her 3 ogres and uses her demonic flute to control their attacks against him. The ogre's attacks are so well coordinated that Shikamaru has no opportunity to use any of his jutsu. He tries finding a pattern in the music Tayuya plays to try and predict their movements, but the music changes too often for him to pick out anything. By instead studying her finger positions, he learns to predict the ogre's actions. When they move into the correct position, Shikamaru uses a flash bomb to extend the ogre's shadows, allowing him to capture them and control them against Tayuya. She then de-summons them before he can do that, but once they're gone, she discovers the ogre's entire capture was a distraction. She has been bound by Shikamaru's shadow, having been slowly navigated towards her. Tayuya is able to resist his shadow's bindings by activating her cursed seal. Shikamaru tries strengthening his hold on her with his newly learned shadow neck binding technique, but he can't make its grasp strong enough either. He releases her and allows himself to fall victim to the genjutsu she casts with her flute. When she comes near him to finish him off with a kunai, which he left for her, he releases himself from the genjutsu by breaking his own finger and traps her within his shadow again, using her closer proximity to improve the shadow's control. Her cursed seal still makes it strong to resist it, so he keeps her bound until he runs out of chakra. Tayuya is stopped from killing Shikamaru by the arrival of Temari, Suna's assistance having been requested by Tsunade. Temari quickly destroys Tayuya's flute, forcing her to retreat into the forest. Shikamaru starts musing about how they might go about finding her or drawing her out, which Temari ignores, simply destroying the forest instead. Tayuya is crushed beneath the fallen trees, and Shikamaru, though intimidated by Temari's ferocity, is nevertheless thankful to her. Temari accompanies Shikamaru back to Konoha. His broken finger is healed, and Shikamaru is informed of the dire consequences the rest of his team has been left in. That things went so badly on his first mission causes Shikamaru to believe he's unfit to be a ninja, much less to lead a team. Temari won't comfort him, nor will Shikaku when he comes to check on things. Shikaku reminds Shikamaru that his friends will continue to go on missions with or without him, but maybe they'll avoid death if Shikamaru leads them then. If this mission went badly, Shikamaru should learn from it and improve so that future missions will be more successful. Tsunade interrupts with news that the team will make full recoveries, that Naruto has been found alive, and that Sasuke escaped. Although this means that the mission failed, both Tsunade and Shikamaru are glad that everyone survived. Shikamaru even tearfully vowing to do better next time. Temari and her brothers later return to Suna, and Shikamaru sees them off. He wishes them a safe journey and thanks them again. Before they go, Temari teases Shikamaru to call if he needs their help again. Mizuki Tracking Mission. In the anime, Team 10 helps Naruto round up escaped prisoners from the Konoha Strict Correctional Facility. They use their formation Ino Shikacho to restrain the legendary Stupid Brothers until Tsunade can arrive to defeat them. Konoha plans Recapture Mission. In the anime, Shikamaru leads the Konoha 11 in stopping Geno from destroying Konoha. Shikamaru proves to be a shrewd detective, quickly catching on to seemingly minor clues and predicting Geno's plans. In the end, Geno decides not to destroy the village, instead having fun letting the Konoha 11, Naruto in particular, figure out what he's up to before he dies of a pre-existing illness. Naruto the Movie, Legend of the Stone of Gelel. Naruto, Sakura, and Shikamaru are sent to deliver Nerigui to its rightful owners. When they arrive at the village where Nerigui's owners live, they're attacked by Temujin's warriors, who wield the power of the Stone of Gelel. Shikamaru is eventually forced to fight the Bat-like Chimera. He uses a net of explosive tags to trap her, allowing Kankuro to finish her off. Sunagakure Support Mission. In the anime, Shikamaru leads the Konoha 11 in helping Suna stop the 4 Celestial Symbols men, repayment for their help to the Sasuke recovery mission. The Konoha 11 splits up once they reach Suna, with Shikamaru reaching Temari in time to save her from Kujaku. Together, they defeat Kujaku. Temari and the other Suna nin rest in Konoha after the 4 Celestial Symbols men are defeated, and when they're ready to leave, Shikamaru sees them off once again. In Naruto's footsteps, the friends' paths. In the anime, about 2 years after Naruto leaves Konoha to train, Shikamaru helps Tsunade coordinate with Suna to hold a joint Chūnin exam, which has the potential to be both a sign of solidarity between their villages and also a way to potentially draw out Akatsuki. Gaara, Suna's new Kazekage, agrees with Tsunade's plans. Because only 3-man teams can participate, and because Shikamaru is already a Chūnin, Shikamaru's position in Team 10 is temporarily filled by Sakura. Shikamaru proctors the first stage of the exam, a written test where participating teams must get a combined score of 100 points despite being seated in different rooms. To pass, teams must find some way to communicate and use teamwork to get the correct score. Towards the end of the first stage, Shikamaru offers a bonus question. If each team can decide upon a team member to disqualify, the rest of the team will be allowed to pass to the second stage. This is a ruse, and the only acceptable answer is for teams to elect to disqualify nobody. Shikamaru congratulates those who pass this first stage and hands them off to Temari, the proctor of the second stage. The exams are forced to be cancelled during the second stage, and the Kazekage consults Shikamaru about what to do. It's decided that performance reports on all remaining participants will be sent to their respective villages to decide who will be promoted to Chūnin. Shikamaru later helps Tsunade pick who to promote. Kazekage Rescue Mission. When Naruto returns to Konoha after his 2.5 years of training, he runs into Shikamaru and Temari. Seeing them together, he asks if they're on a date. Both deny this, instead explaining that they're only working together to plan another Chūnin exam. Shikamaru asks if Naruto will participate since he's the only person from their graduating class who is still a genin. Naruto is devastated by everyone's promotions. Tenchi Bridge Reconnaissance Mission. Naruto tracks down Shikamaru to ask for his help in potentially finding Sasuke again. Shikamaru can't, once again telling Naruto that he's helping arrange the Chūnin exams. Choji offers to help Naruto, though Shikamaru shares his doubts that Asuma will allow it. While they're discussing this, they're attacked by Sai's super beast imitating drawings. Shikamaru uses his shadow sewing technique to destroy Sai's drawings while Naruto gets close. Shikamaru then tries to catch Sai with his shadow, but he's able to escape. 12. Naruto Shippūden the movie. Shikamaru is part of a Konoha force sent to hold off Morio's stone army. He later helps prevent this same army from providing backup to Morio in its fight with Naruto. 12 Guardian Ninja. In the anime, when Konoha is attacked by Furido's 4-man team, Tsunade puts Shikamaru in charge of Konoha's defense. Shikamaru is frustrated that he can't join his friends on the front lines, believing that it's where the strategist is most needed and most effective. Shikamaru eventually defies orders and does just that, and in doing so, the Earth Release Resurrection technique, Corpse Soil, is repelled. When Sora later rampages through the village, Shikamaru tries to restrain him with his shadow, but this fails and he must leave Sora's defeat to Naruto. Naruto Shippūden the movie. Bonds. When the Land of the Sky attacks Konoha, Shikamaru helps protect the villagers and fend off the attackers. Later, he's put on a team with Kakashi, Sai, and Shino Aburame to take down the Land of Sky's ship fleet. Having deduced where the fleet is located based on its attack patterns, he and Kakashi work out a plan that enables the team to accomplish their mission. Akatsuki Suppression Mission. Shikamaru plays shogi with Asuma, but is surprised by Asuma's suddenly more offensive and reckless playstyle. Asuma explains that he's learned the importance of protecting the king, even if it means sacrifices. Using shogi as a metaphor, Asuma says that Shikamaru is a knight while he's like a basic pawn. Shikamaru guesses that the king is like the Hokage, which Asuma disagrees with, though he refuses to elaborate. They're both later assigned to one of the 20 platoons, a task force designed to hunt down Akatsuki members within the Land of Fire. As their platoon searches the countryside for a lead as to the location of 2 Akatsuki members that earlier attacked the Fire Temple, Shikamaru questions Asuma on his continuing strange behavior, specifically that he stopped smoking. Asuma once again avoids the question, instead reminding them to be ready for the Akatsuki members' undoubtedly formidable abilities. On reaching the bounty station, they find Hidan waiting outside. Asuma distracts him while Shikamaru restrains him with his shadow, allowing Izumo Kamizuki and Kotetsu Hagane to stab him with their swords. To their surprise, Hidan survives the attack. Hidan's partner, Kakazu, then appears and attacks Shikamaru, forcing him to release Hidan. Their platoon regroups and Asuma instructs Shikamaru to try and restrain Hidan with his shadow sewing technique while he fights him along, planning to decapitate him once he's captured. Shikamaru objects to the inherent risk of the plan, but goes along with it at Asuma's insistence. Hidan evades Shikamaru's shadow and Asuma's strikes, in the process managing to scratch Asuma's cheek with his triple-bladed scythe. After licking Asuma's blood from the scythe and entering a symbol he drew on the ground earlier, Hidan links himself with Asuma, causing any damage he receives to also be done to Asuma. Hidan tries to take advantage of this link with Asuma to stab himself in the heart, relying on his own immortality to survive while Asuma dies. Shikamaru stops him with his shadow and, having picked up on how his ability works, forces Hidan to leave the symbol on the ground, thus breaking the link. Now free to attack Hidan again, Asuma cuts his head off. Hidan once again survives, and he calls on Kakuzu to sew his head back onto his body. Asuma, Izumo, and Kotetsu try to stop Kakuzu from doing so, while Shikamaru, exhausted from the effort it took to move Hidan out of the circle, can only watch. They fail, Hidan's head is reattached, and he returns to the symbol, re-establishing the link. Despite Shikamaru's attempts to reach in time to stop him, Hidan is able to stab himself in the heart. Asuma keels over just as another of the 20 platoons, one which includes Choji and Ino, arrives to provide backup. Hidan and Kakuzu retreat, giving Ino a chance to try and heal the damage to Asuma's body. Aware that his wounds are too severe to heal, Asuma gives parting words to his students. To Shikamaru, he whispers the identity of the king they spoke about earlier. As his last act, Asuma requests that Shikamaru give him a cigarette, but he dies before Shikamaru can light it. Shikamaru lights the cigarette and smokes it himself, blaming the smoke for his tears. They return to Konoha to report about what's happened, with Shikamaru taking responsibility for informing Kurenai Yuhi about Asuma's death. Shikamaru does not attend Asuma's funeral, instead spending his time thinking over cigarettes, practicing with Asuma's chakra blades, and planning his revenge. Once he's got everything ready, Shikamaru sets out with Choji and Ino to hunt down Hidan and Kakuzu. Tsunade tries to persuade them not to go, but they're all confident in what they need to do. Sai tries to hold them back on the grounds that they need a fourth member, at which point Kakashi Hatake appears and volunteers to be their fourth. Tsunade finally relents, and Shikamaru quickly modifies his plan to take advantage of Kakashi's skills. Once Ino locates Hidan and Kakuzu, Shikamaru launches the first attack, striking at them multiple times until he's able to pin their shadows using Asuma's chakra blades. Shikamaru uses his shadow to force Hidan to attack Kakuzu, but Kakuzu frees himself in time to dodge. Shikamaru continues using Hidan to attack Kakuzu, and with Choji's help maneuvers Kakuzu into a position for Kakashi to attack him with his lightning cutter. Although Kakashi pierces Kakuzu's heart, Kakuzu has 4 spares, one of which he uses to save himself. He kicks Kakashi away and joins Hidan, who Shikamaru was forced to release. Hidan attacks Shikamaru and the others with his scythe, while Kakuzu uses his extra heart's natures to attack from a distance, overwhelming them. Shikamaru decides that Hidan and Kakuzu will need to be separated if they're to be defeated, and volunteers to deal with Hidan alone. Despite Hidan's attempt to use the experience gained from his many previous captures to avoid Shikamaru's shadow, he's captured yet again and led away. Once deep enough into the forest, Shikamaru surrounds himself with explosive tags so Hidan won't be able to get away under any circumstances. Once Shikamaru is forced to release him, Hidan strikes, acquires some of Shikamaru's blood, and stabs himself in the heart. The blood that Hidan acquired was actually Kakuzu's, which Kakashi collected earlier when he used Lightning Cutter. Hidan's link was therefore to Kakuzu, and he has thus destroyed one of Kakuzu's hearts. Hidan doesn't realize this and assumes Shikamaru is dead, allowing Shikamaru to attack him from behind in an effort to cut off his head. Hidan notices in time to keep his head attached, but Shikamaru once again catches him with his shadow. He uses the shadow to attach all of the surrounding explosive tags to Hidan, and then activates a mark he set earlier, which causes the ground beneath Hidan to collapse into a pit. Realizing what Shikamaru intends to do, Hidan vows to dig himself out and come after Shikamaru. Shikamaru doubts this, explaining that the surrounding forest belongs to the Nara clan, and that only they can enter and leave it. He ignites the explosive tags with one of Asuma's cigarettes, Asuma's lighter in the anime, blowing Hidan up. Hidan's still speaking remains fall into the pit, which Shikamaru buries with a final explosive tag. Kakuzu is defeated by the time Shikamaru makes it back to the others, and they return to Konoha to report their success to Tsunade. Shikamaru visits Asuma's grave afterwards and finds Kurenai there. As they reminisce about Asuma, Shikamaru vows to teach Asuma and Kurenai's unborn child just as Asuma taught him. He plays shogi with Shikaku later, and they discuss Asuma's earlier metaphor. Asuma believed the king was the next generation, which Shikamaru also now believes. Shikaku is glad that he's learned this, and then proceeds to defeat Shikamaru so he'll realize he's not yet ready for the responsibility of protecting it. Naruto Shippūden the movie, The Will of Fire. After Hiroko declares the start of the 4th Shinobi World War, Kakashi approaches Shikamaru and tells him his plans to sacrifice himself in order to defeat Hiroko. Kakashi is shortly afterwards taken control of by Hiroko and forced to leave the village. When Naruto attempts to go after him, Shikamaru stops him, though he does not divulge Kakashi's plans to anyone but Tsunade. Despite his and Tsunade's instructions to remain in Konoha, Naruto and Sakura go after Kakashi, and Shikamaru leads a team to bring them back. They run into San along the way, whose defeat Shikamaru leaves to the rest of the team while he catches up with Naruto. Upon reaching him, Shikamaru threatens to kill Naruto, believing the future of Konoha is worth sacrificing Kakashi. Naruto agrees that Konoha's future is important, but he doesn't feel the future is worthwhile if they assume sacrifices are the only way to protect it. Naruto's words are in accordance with the will of fire and in fact remind Shikamaru of Asuma, so he joins Naruto in rescuing Kakashi. Upon freeing Kakashi and getting drawn into a fight with Hiroko, Shikamaru advises Naruto on where Hiroko's weak points are. Pain's assault. Tsunade assigns Shikamaru to decipher Jiraiya's dying message about the identity of Pain, Akatsuki's leader. He takes the message to the Konoha cryptanalysis team, but they can't decode it until they know what the key is, something that somebody close to Jiraiya might be able to find out. Tsunade and Kakashi have no theories when he asks them, so Shikamaru visits Naruto. Naruto is depressed about Jiraiya's death and has difficulty focusing. He takes Naruto to see Kurenai, who is well along in her pregnancy, to illustrate the role that Shikamaru and Naruto must be able to someday fill, being cool teachers to children like Kurenai's, just as Asuma and Jiraiya were to each of them. This properly motivates Naruto, who is able to find a clue that seems to point to Jiraiya's most recent book, Icha Tactics. Kakashi uses his copy of the book to help him decode the message. The real one is not among them. Shikamaru shares the message with Fukusaku, who was with Jiraiya when he died, but the message makes no sense without additional context. Shikamaru is forced to wait until the other investigations into Pain proceed further. Shikamaru discusses possible meetings with Sakura and Shiho a few days later, but they're interrupted by Pain's assault, and they disperse to join the village's defense. In the anime, Shikamaru immediately goes looking for Kurenai, finding her in time to save her from one of the Animal Path's giant centipedes. He helps her find an evacuation point out of the village before going to see what other help he can provide. Pain eventually destroys Konoha, which Shikamaru survives with only a broken leg. In the anime, he broke it while shielding Shiho from harm. While Naruto fights Pain alone, Shikamaru meets up with Shikaku, Ino, and Inoichi Yamanaka to pool their knowledge about Pain. With their combined information, they hypothesize that Pain is actually being controlled remotely by someone, likely from the highest point near Konoha. Because of his legs, Shikamaru must stay behind while Shikaku and Inoichi go searching. Naruto eventually defeats Pain, and upon his return to Konoha, Shikamaru joins in the celebration of the victory. Past Arc, the Locus of Konoha. In the anime, Shikamaru and Shiho sift through the rubble of Konoha to find some photos of villagers, which they try and reunite with their owners. Shikamaru and the rest of Team 10 later round up some hogs for the villagers to eat. The teamwork they demonstrate reminds Shikamaru of their mission to apprehend Baji. 5 Kage Summit. News reaches Konoha of Sasuke's recent activity with Akatsuki, specifically his attack against Kumogakure's ninja. The members of Team 8, Team 10, and Team Guy decide that Sasuke can no longer be allowed to implicate Konoha in his criminal deeds, and they resolve to personally kill him. Shikamaru volunteers to inform Naruto and Sakura of their decision, still holding himself responsible for the Sasuke retrieval mission failing. When he finds Sakura, he overhears Sai already expressing similar sentiments to her and joins in with him, telling Sakura that it's their responsibility as Sasuke's former friends to stop him. Sakura eventually agrees and volunteers to be the one to tell Naruto. When Naruto returns to Konoha after learning of this and having his own confrontation with Sasuke, he meets with his fellow Konoha 11 and requests that they leave dealing with Sasuke to him. 4th Shinobi World War Countdown. When the 4th Shinobi World War against Akatsuki looms, Shikamaru is called to a council of Konoha's tacticians to discuss strategies for the coming war and any preparations that will need to be made. Shikaku notes that because he's so young, Shikamaru will need to take extra care to take in all the information that's brought up, which Shikamaru promises to do. Naruto the movie, Blood Prison. Shikamaru is part of the team sent to the Blood Prison to rescue Naruto, who was wrongly imprisoned there. Power. In the anime, Konoha receives reports that Hidan's triple-bladed scythe was stolen from the Nara clan forest, and Shikamaru is sent to investigate. Shikamaru is later part of a force sent to Tonika village to provide backup for Team 7. Paradise Life on a Boat. In the anime, Shikamaru starts to feel the pressures of sending his friends to the warfront. He's sent to Mozoku Island to help ease his mind, where he meets with Naruto. When they later try leaving the island, they get lost in the fog and caught in a whirlpool, which Shikamaru helps them navigate safely out of. Back in Konoha, Shikamaru is approached by Konohamaru Sarutobi, who wants to enlist in the allied shinobi forces, though Shikamaru refuses because Konohamaru doesn't know the identity of the king and shogi. Konohamaru is frustrated by this and tries to prove himself in battle by fighting Tamari, but Shikamaru forces him to stop. Konohamaru eventually realizes what the king is and decides to find a better way for him to help the village. Road to Ninja, Naruto the movie. Shikamaru and the rest of the Konoha 11 fight off an attack by what seems to be the entire Akatsuki roster, but what are actually disfigured parts of the White Zetsu army. When Naruto and Sakura are sent to the Genjutsu world, they meet that world's Shikamaru. He's goofy, slow-witted, and lacks the real Shikamaru's intellect. His hair is also thicker, appearing star-shaped when held in its ponytail. 4th Shinobi World War, Confrontation. Shikamaru is assigned to the Allied Shinobi Forces 4th Division, the deputy to the division's leader, Gaara. Because Gaara is also in charge of the other 4 combat divisions, Temari informs Shikamaru that he is, in effect, the 4th Division's leader. After the Allied forces mobilize, the 4th Division encounters several reincarnated Kage. Gaara requests backup from Allied HQ, but Shikaku and the others there instead decide to send part of the 4th Division, including Shikamaru, to provide backup to the 1st Division. As they near the 1st Division's location, Shikaku contacts Shikamaru, Choji, and Ino and tells them about their first threat they'll need to deal with, Kinkaku, who possesses some of the Nine-Tails chakra. When they arrive, they use formation Ino Shikacho on Kinkaku, allowing his capture in the Kohaku no Johei. After Kinkaku's defeat, Team 10 is immediately confronted by a reincarnated Kakazu, who is interested in fighting them. Shikaku contacts them and instructs them to deal with another threat instead, a reincarnated Asuma. Although none of them want to fight Asuma, they, as his former students, are experts on his fighting style and thus the best qualified to defeat him. When he notes their presence, Asuma congratulates them for their clear growth since he last saw them. They attack him and he's forced to counter, but he gives pointers about how to avoid his attacks and ultimately defeat him. Although Shikamaru and Ino are committed to the fight, Choji has difficulty bringing himself to strike Asuma, to everyone's frustrations, Asuma's included. Choji eventually manages to psych himself up, and once Shikamaru maneuvers Asuma into position, punches him. Shikamaru restrains Asuma with his shadow while he's sealed away, but before that, Asuma gives them new parting words, that he has nothing more to teach them since their teamwork is now perfect. By nightfall, the 1st Division's battle appears won. All the reincarnated forces have been captured, and all present elements of the White Zetsu army have been defeated. When the demonic statue of the Outer Path suddenly appears in the battlefield and starts devastating the 1st Division, Shikamaru suspects that it's a distraction. He finds Tobi in the process of taking the captured Kinkaku and Ginkaku out, and guessing that he plans to make use of their Nine-Tails chakra, restrains him with his shadow. Tobi compliments Shikamaru's perceptiveness and has the demonic statue attack him, but he's saved by Choji. Tobi escapes, taking Kinkaku, Ginkaku, and the demonic statue with him. 4th Shinobi World War, Climax. After being informed by Inoichi from HQ that Naruto and B were fighting the masked Madara, Shikamaru and the rest of the Konoha 11 rush to his aid. As he runs, he tells Choji that he'd expect nothing short of Naruto overdoing things on the battlefield, and because of his short temper, he wasn't one to calmly think a plan through, so Naruto should wait for them. After Shikamaru arrives on the battlefield, Shikaku relays a plan of restraining the Ten-Tails to the assembled allied forces, but the plan is unsuccessful. The Ten-Tails controllers, Tobi, real name Obito, and Madara Uchiha are nevertheless concerned by Shikaku's strategies and have the Ten-Tails fire a tailed beast ball at the distant allied HQ, where Shikaku is stationed. Before the HQ is destroyed, Shikaku relays a final attack plan to Shikamaru and adds that he, as new chief strategist, will need to come up with a new one if it fails. Shikamaru thanks him for being such a good example to live up to before the communications are cut off with Shikaku's death. Once empowered by Naruto's version 1-like cloaks, the remaining allied forces enact Shikaku's last plan, a large-scale formation Ino Shikacho. Shikamaru and the other members of the Nara clan hold the Ten-Tails' shadow while the rest of the alliance attacks. The attack succeeds in removing the Ten-Tails from Obito and Madara's control. As a consequence, the Ten-Tails' attacks become more devastating and indiscriminate. When the Ten-Tails prepares to destroy the allies with a tailed beast ball, Shikamaru has Ino use the mind-body transmission technique to connect him with Kitsuchi and teach him a simple protective wall. Shikamaru then has Ino connect him with the rest of the allies so he can teach them this same jutsu and use it to try and deflect the tailed beast ball. It breaks through all their defenses, but is slowed enough for the reincarnated 4th Hokage to arrive in time to save them. Sasuke Uchiha arrives shortly after the 4th, claiming to now want to help protect Konoha by defeating the Ten-Tails. Shikamaru states that he's willing to accept Sasuke's assistance, but he can't overlook Sasuke's past actions. With their whole graduating class together again, the members of Team 7, 8, and 10 attack the Ten-Tails minions. For Team 10's contribution, they use the human bullet yo-yo, wherein Shikamaru uses his shadow to grab Choji and swing him through the Ten-Tails forces that Ino senses for him. Their formation is quite successful, but does not compare to the amount of damage inflicted by Team 7's members. Despite Sasuke's contribution, some amongst them remain wary of him. Birth of the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki. Obito eventually becomes the Ten Tails Jinchuriki, against whom only Naruto, Sasuke, and the 4 reincarnated Hokage can fight. Morale starts to sink because of this, so Shikamaru contacts the Alliance through Ino and encourages them to remain vigilant for any opportunity to contribute to the battle. When Obito prepares to destroy the Alliance with 4-tailed beast balls, Shikamaru curses his inability to come up with a plan of countering it. Naruto and the 4th Hokage are able to teleport everyone to safety, but Obito only employs a different tactic, recreating the God Tree to feed off the chakra of whatever allies it comes into contact with. Shikamaru is one of the many to have his chakra absorbed by the God Tree, but its roots are cut from him before he can be killed. Even though he's saved, Shikamaru's lost enough chakra to place his life in danger, and he struggles to remain conscious. Sakura attempts to revive him, but it's not until the version 1 cloak from Naruto, which was thought lost in one of the Ten Tails' earlier attacks, reappears that Shikamaru starts to recover. Through Ino's link with the Alliance, Shikamaru's feelings about Naruto are shared with everyone else. The inspiration that Naruto brings to him, the painful childhood he wants to protect Naruto from, and the Hokage position he wants to help Naruto achieve. When Tsunade arrives in the battlefield, she replenishes Shikamaru's chakra so he can rejoin the fight. He then helps Naruto defeat Obito, first by joining the rest of the Konoha 11 in hitting Obito with one of Naruto's Rasengan, and then by rallying the allies to pull the tailed beast chakra from Obito's body. Even with Obito defeated, other threats still remain. A final Zetsu begins overwhelming most of the Alliance, which they're all too weak to put up much fight against. Shikamaru regretfully notes that they must leave fighting the Zetsu up to the reincarnated 3rd Hokage. While the Alliance continues fighting the Zetsu, Shikamaru notices Naruto and Sasuke's distant fight with Madara Uchiha. When the infinite Tsukiyomi is cast upon the world, Shikamaru, alongside most people, are immobilized by the Genjutsu and restrained. Kaguya Otsutsuki strikes. In his dream, Shikamaru observes his parents' marriage and Asuma and Kurenai's, and decides marriage is too bothersome, which Temari agrees with. Naruto and Sasuke eventually release the infinite Tsukiyomi, freeing Shikamaru and the rest of the world, and thus ending the 4th Shinobi World War. Kakashi Hiden, lightning in the icy sky. A year after the end of the war, Shikamaru is placed in charge of the Blood Prison, part of Konoha's obligation to provide security. When the Ryuha Armament Alliance hijacks the Tobishachimaru in order to ransom the release of their leader, Gario, from the Blood Prison, Tsunade contacts Shikamaru to discuss their options. They decide against caving to the Armament Alliance's demands and send reinforcements to the Blood Prison to prevent a potential prison break. As the Tobishachimaru nears the Blood Prison, the Armament Alliance expels its passengers into the prison, each of whom are strapped with blue fire powder that detonates when they make landfall. Shikamaru instructs Konoha's forces to save the passengers before they're blown up, and then has them start rounding up the prisoners escaping through the damaged outer walls. Shikamaru goes after Gario, planning to capture him using the shadow imitation technique, but discovers that Ino has already caught him using her mind-body switch technique. They return to the Blood Prison and watch as the Tobishachimaru crashes nearby. Tsunade wants Kaio, the highest-ranking Armament Alliance member to survive the failed jailbreak, executed. Kakashi Hatake instead suggests that she be made the prison's new warden, thus releasing Konoha from security obligations. Shikamaru sees merit in the idea, and Tsunade approves on the condition that Kakashi become the 6th Hokage. All agree. Shikamaru Hiden, a cloud drifting in silent darkness. After the 4th Shinobi World War ended, Shikamaru became chief coordinator of the Shinobi Union, successor to the allied Shinobi forces. 2 years after the war, the Shinobi Union has created an unprecedented peace, in no small part due to Shikamaru's tireless work. The amount of work he's been doing in fact bothers Shikamaru, as he's gotten quite far from his dream of spending his days doing nothing but watching the clouds. Just when he decides he doesn't want any more responsibilities, he notices one of Sai's Inkbirds delivering a message to Kakashi and immediately goes to Kakashi's office to read the message. Both are bothered by what Sai says, such as his warning about Gengo, the charismatic leader of the Land of Silence, or reports that Sai's team of Anbu have all gone missing. What bothers them most is that Sai didn't deliver this message in person, and that his words suggest he is awed by Gengo. It's apparent to Kakashi that Gengo is a major threat to the Shinobi Union's peace, and that in order to protect the Union, he must be assassinated. Shikamaru does not hesitate to volunteer for the job, chiefly so he can try to find Sai. He will need help on the mission, but runs into issues when meeting with his friends. He doesn't want to talk to Temari about it, preferring to keep it a Konoha-only matter. He doesn't want to involve Choji or Ino because it's too foul a business. He doesn't want to ask Naruto for help because he doesn't want Naruto to lose faith in him. Kakashi assigns 2 Anbu, Ro and Soku, to assist Shikamaru, and they secretly leave Konoha, traveling to the Land of Silence after 3 days of non-stop travel. They infiltrate the capital city and start interrogating Enlightened Ones, Gengo's followers who all revere him and who believe he will revolutionize the world. Shikamaru, Soku, and Ro disguise themselves as enlightened ones and attend a rally where Gengo delivers a speech to an enraptured crowd. As they move into position to assassinate Gengo, their presence is inexplicably discovered. Shikamaru tries to capture Gengo with his shadow, but his shadow refuses to be used against Gengo. Sai, now an enlightened one, comes to Gengo's aid and captures Shikamaru and others. Shikamaru is imprisoned, forced to endure sounds of Ro and Soku's torture and Gengo's occasional small talk. After 10 days, they are brought before Gengo, who invites Shikamaru to become his right-hand man. When Shikamaru refuses, Gengo observes how the world is skewed against shinobi. It is shinobi who can use ninjutsu, yet it is normal people who form the majority of the population. It's normal people who govern, yet it is shinobi who die in the wars those same normal people start. Gengo believes the world is unjust to shinobi, which Ro and Soku agree with. Shikamaru also finds his words compelling and starts doubting the work he's done to protect the current shinobi system. Yet he can't bring himself to agree, a small place in his heart clinging to the question of why he should be subordinate to Gengo. Gengo invites Shikamaru to kill him if he truly believes it's the right thing to do. Shikamaru starts to suspect Gengo is using some sort of genjutsu, but gives up on figuring it out and prepares to join hands with Gengo. Before he can, a gust of wind suddenly lifts him into the air and then drops him on the ground. Shikamaru sees that it's Tamari's doing, and from her appearance and her words, Gengo's influence over him disappears. He realizes that Gengo's words are laced with genjutsu, which, now that he knows this, means they no longer have any sway over him. Although he can't actually refute anything Gengo said, Shikamaru states that the shinobi system has Naruto and Tamari, and that's enough reason for him to defend it. Gengo attacks, trading blows and words with Shikamaru. Shikamaru decides that rather than the unremarkable life he'd used to want, he'd prefer dedicating himself to creating a peaceful world where it doesn't matter whether or not a person is a shinobi. Shikamaru overpowers Gengo, but Sai forces him to let Gengo go. Tamari fights Sai so that Shikamaru can go after Gengo. He follows him to a room too dark to use his shadow, forcing him to rely on his other senses to dodge and disarm him. When Ro and Soku, freed from Gengo's genjutsu, join him and open a door to provide some light, they team up against Gengo. Shikamaru distracts Gengo with shadow clones while Ro hides his chakra, allowing him to maneuver behind Gengo. He restrains Gengo with his shadow, and Soku uses a chakra needle on his tongue, robbing him of his ability to talk. Gengo's influence over the Enlightened Ones disappears, and he is taken into custody. In the aftermath, Shikamaru is confronted by Naruto, who is upset that Shikamaru would put himself in danger without telling him. Shikamaru promises never to keep anything from Naruto ever again. Gengo is turned over to Gaara, the Kazekage, who led the reinforcements responsible for saving him. Although Gaara claims he only did it because of how important Shikamaru is to the Shinobi Union, he points out he might not have done so without Tamari's insistence. As the Kazekage leaves with his other Sunanin, Shikamaru asks Tamari to stay behind so he can ask her out on a date. She responds with, "How troublesome." When Shikamaru gets back to Konoha, he is given a week off by Kakashi, but he no longer finds the distinction between work and relaxation as troubling as he did before. Kakashi gives him a mission when he returns to work that, while important, can be accomplished by almost anyone. For that reason, Shikamaru turns down the mission as his date with Tamari is the next day. The last, Naruto the movie. 2 years after the war, Shikamaru is placed in charge of a team tasked with rescuing Hanabi Hyuga from Toneri Otsutsuki. Because Toneri might have some involvement in the imminent crashing of the moon into the Earth, Kakashi gives Shikamaru a clock that will keep track of how much time there is until Earth's destruction. Shikamaru and his team are to prevent this if at all possible. They follow Toneri's trail into an underground passage, within which they are faced first with genjutsu-based defenses and then the Gatekeeper. They do eventually make it through the passage, arriving in what they later discover is the moon's interior. After they spend the day investigating the surrounding landscape, Hinata Hyuga voluntarily joins with Toneri, and Naruto is badly injured in his failed attempt to stop her. Once he regains consciousness after 3 days, Naruto has lost all willingness to continue since Hinata has seemingly taken Toneri's side. Shikamaru lectures him about not giving up, reminding them that no matter what Hinata has done and no matter what Naruto's feelings for her are, they still have a mission to complete. Their team assaults Toneri's base, with Shikamaru figuring out how to pass through its protective barrier by observing Toneri's puppets. Shikamaru then holds off the puppets with his shadow while the others go looking for Hinata and Hanabi. They succeed in finding them, and Naruto defeats Toneri, which has the added benefit of saving the Earth. They return home through the same passage they arrived in. Konoha Hiden, the perfect day for a wedding. Naruto and Hinata decide to get married shortly after the mission to the moon, and Shikamaru is invited to the wedding. He has lunch with Choji to discuss what he should give them as a wedding present, feeling that his first choice of money would be thoughtless. He finally settles on getting them a romantic honeymoon trip, but will need a woman's input to help him plan something suitable. While looking for Ino to help in this regard, they run into Temari, who also happens to be a woman. Shikamaru is reluctant to ask her for help, feeling she doesn't have the right personality. He's also embarrassed about their previous date, during which they spent most of the time discussing work. Choji forces him to ask her anyway, but from the way Shikamaru poses the question, Temari believes he's asking her to plan their own honeymoon. Temari is embarrassed, and Shikamaru, not realizing the confusion, believes he's offended her. He tries to find an excuse to leave, but Temari holds him back and agrees to tour the Konoha Hot Springs district with him. Evening descends, and Shikamaru and Temari walk around in the soft lighting of the hot springs. Temari remains quiet and strange the whole time, so Shikamaru suggests they go to a shop so the trip isn't wasted. Temari points out some target throwing booths where numerous couples are trying to win prizes. Shikamaru ends up winning 2 small trinkets in his determination to figure out the booth's scam, which he gives to Temari. Afterwards, he takes her to an inn, hoping she can tell him if Hinata would like it. Temari suspects he has other intentions and declines, believing she won't refuse him if they go inside. Shikamaru puts his hands on her face, worried she's sick because of how red it is, causing her to run away. He chases after her, desperately needing her opinion. When she stops, he assures her how important she is to him, explaining that he, as a man, can't evaluate the inn's services for women. Temari is confused once again, and Shikamaru is confused by her confusion. He repeats that he wants to give Naruto and Hinata a nice honeymoon, and now that he says it, he realizes what Temari thought he meant earlier. Temari is put at ease, and Shikamaru smiles from the misunderstanding. On the day of the wedding, Shikamaru happily discusses work with Temari. Gara Hiden, a sandstorm mirage. Shikamaru and Temari decide to get married, which becomes its own political issue in Sunagakure, and also generates a second one, having Gara get married first. When Gara meets the woman he's arranged to marry, Hakuto, Shikamaru secretly attends in case there's trouble. When various missing nin attack the meeting, Shikamaru saves Temari from being killed by an enemy puppeteer. After the attack is fought off, Gara requests via Temari that Shikamaru meet him on the border between the Land of Wind and the Land of Fire. There, Gara turns Hakuto and her lover, Shigazane, over to Shikamaru so they can both elope and settle in Konoha under new identities. In order to make sure they won't be bothered by their new lives, Shikamaru will fire a report corroborating Gara's story that they were both killed in the desert. Before Shikamaru leaves to take Hakuto and Shigazane to Konoha, he smiles to see Gara with Hakuto's sister, Sasuke Shinden, Book of Sunrise. When enemy ninja infiltrate Konoha, Shikamaru is part of a force tasked with finding and capturing the intruders. New era. After Shikamaru and Temari marry, they have a son, Shikadai, who Shikamaru trains to be part of the new generation of Ino Shikacho alongside with Ino and Choji's children. When Naruto doesn't show up to his own Hokage inauguration, Shikamaru has Konohamaru Sarutobi disguise himself as Naruto. On top of his work as the 7th Hokage's assistant, he became Mirai Sarutobi's sensei after she left the academy. Academy Entrance Arc. In the anime, as the new semester for the academy was approaching and by extension new students joining, Shikamaru kept Naruto on track with the various paperwork. On the day of the entrance ceremony, as everyone began looking for an absent Boruto, he suddenly appeared, crashing a train into the Hokage monument. Shikamaru then had everyone clear out to begin cleanup. Weeks later, when Shikadai was doing community work as punishment for an episode at the academy, while Temari was furious, Shikamaru took it in stride, noting that no one is perfect and this will only help him grow. Temari, not pleased with the two males' attitude, decided not to give them any food for dinner that night. Later, as a mysterious presence continued to cause people in the village to randomly attack the citizens, Shikamaru joined in an investigation. The investigation later discovered that the perpetrator's actions were leaving its victims severely drained of their chakra to the point of being hospitalized. As they continued their investigation, only to find no real leads, Shikamaru decided to help an overworked Naruto back to his home. Once there, they learned that Boruto was acting strange recently. When they confronted Boruto about it, he proudly declared that he finally manifested his Byakugan. Shikamaru was skeptical about that, as one normally requires extreme training to manifest the power. As Himawari herself proved that on rare occasions one can independently awaken the Byakugan, it was decided that Naruto would bring Boruto to Hisashi Hyuga, who would give a better answer to the situation. As the mysterious attacks began happening more commonly and expanding in the area, evidence was found to suggest that the real goal of the perpetrator was to harvest people's chakra. It was also discovered that wood release was possibly involved. As Root had a history of conducting its own secret research on the farmed power of the first Hokage, Shikamaru decided to research it more with Sai. Later, a strange release of chakra began spreading throughout the village. As it showed a similar nature to the chakra of the rampages, Shikamaru went to act. He learned from Sai that the culprit was Sumire Kake, who was the daughter of a radically loyal follower of Danzo's, Tanuki Shigaraki. Shikamaru realized that Sumire was able to hide her actions so efficiently because the identities of all former root members were sealed away to avoid ostracizing them from the other villagers. He heard from Kakashi that she was completing the final request from her father to unleash the Gozu Tenno on the village. Despite the initial devastation, the attack ended soon afterwards with Sumire surrendering. As Shikamaru discussed the events with Naruto and Sai, he noted his relief yet surprise at her being stopped by Boruto appealing to her kindness. Sarada Uchiha Arc. When their son's graduation from the academy approaches, both Shikamaru and Naruto take the time to help train them. Naruto, in fact, takes too much time training his son Boruto in a game of hide and seek, so Shikamaru captures Boruto with his shadow so that Naruto can get back to work. While they're both back in the office, they receive news from Sasuke about a boy with Sharingan. Naruto leaves the village to help Sasuke investigate, placing Shikamaru in charge of anything that comes up while he's absent. He also asks Shikamaru to apologize to Boruto for not waiting around to see him off. Graduation Exams Arc. In the anime, as ninja classes began preparing for graduation exams, Orochimaru came to the village to discuss matters with Naruto about his research on Danzo's old experiments. As Orochimaru delivered promising results to aid Sasuke in his own investigations, Shikamaru voiced his still limited trust in Orochimaru, reminding him to stay in disguise while roaming the village, which the Sannin nonchalantly disregarded as obvious. Shikamaru aided Naruto in assigning the first mission for each of the new genin. Afterwards, he openly admitted to worrying about how Shikadai would do on his mission, to which Shikamaru chuckled at how much times have changed. Byakuya Gang Arc. In the anime, Shikamaru began teaching Shikadai more advanced tactics and shogi to sharpen his mind for strategic planning. Later, when a group of self-proclaimed noble thieves began making various heists throughout Konohagakure, their act of distributing their stolen wealth to the poor began gaining much support from many of the villagers. Even more, swarms of protesters began emerging in the village against various legitimate companies, fueled by the Byakuya Gang's claims that said companies were corrupt, one of which included the Kaminariman Company. In hopes of better understanding this new enemy, it was decided to talk to the other villages for any information on the Byakuya Gang. Later, the protesting was growing potentially violent. As Shikamaru came to aid, he crossed paths with Mizuki, who informed him of Boruto rushing to aid Shikadai's sudden leaving of his post. Deciding to investigate his son's actions himself, he found Inojin and Chocho facing a member of the Byakuya Gang. After swiftly defeating the foe himself, Shikamaru decided to look the other way on Genin ignoring orders to avoid fighting the thieves. When the Genin asked Shikamaru to help them with the pursuit, he reluctantly declined as he still had to help with the chaos from the riots. He was, however, happy to hear how determined Shikadai seemed during this. As the 5 great ninja nations continued to investigate the remains of Kaguya's legacy, they found another ruin that was connected to her. Shikamaru then joined Naruto in personally investigating it. Naruto Shinden, Parent and Child Day. When Konohagakure began celebrating a new annual holiday, Parent and Child Day, Shikamaru offered to set up a schedule to ensure Naruto would have time with his own family. Later, Shikamaru joined his son for the day, accompanied by Sai, Lee, and their respective sons. When Tamari learned that the winner of an eating competition would get unlimited free dumplings from Ankororo for a year, she forced Shikamaru and Shikadai to compete, wanting the prize for herself. However, they soon overate, leaving them physically sick and unable to continue. Later that night, the Nara men nervously ate dinner under the stern watch of a noticeably angered Tamari due to their failure at the competition. Versus Momoshiki Arc. Naruto's already heavy workload becomes even more complicated by the approaching Chūnin Exams. Sensing the difficulties this is causing Naruto's personal life, Shikamaru volunteers to complete some of his work for him so Naruto can spend time with his family. Later, as investigations into Kaguya's former activities continued, it was discovered that her creation of the White Zetsu army was in fact set up as a further precaution for a looming threat. Shikamaru designs the exam's first stage and keeps Naruto informed about how Boruto is performing. When both Boruto and Shikadai advance to the final rounds, Shikamaru sets up a competition with Naruto about which of their sons will win if they end up fighting each other. Boruto and Shikadai do indeed fight each other, and Boruto is initially declared the winner, but Naruto catches Boruto cheating and forces him to be disqualified. The finals are interrupted by Kinshiki and Momoshiki Otsutsuki, who attack Naruto and destroy much of the stadium where the finals are being held. Shikamaru attempts to restrain both of them with his shadow, but Momoshiki absorbs it and Shikamaru is forced to withdraw. Naruto is captured and Sasuke organizes a rescue team consisting of himself, Boruto, and the other 5 Kage. Shikamaru sees them off as they travel to Momoshiki's planet, noticing that Katasuke and Kosuke are following after them. Naruto is saved and life in Konoha returns to normal. In the movie's novelization, Shikamaru is tasked with organizing another Chūnin exam. Mitsuki's disappearance arc. In the anime, after the defeat of Momoshiki Otsutsuki and Konohagakure recovered from this attack, a Kage summit was held. Shikamaru also attended to discuss the next course of action. Later, when 2 Chūnin gate guards were attacked by unknown assailants, the village was put on lockdown. Shikamaru joined Naruto and his advisors while overseeing Ino probe one of the guards' minds for answers, learning that Mitsuki had left willingly with the attackers. When Naruto revealed to the others Mitsuki was in fact Orochimaru's son, much outrage followed from learning that Naruto would permit an offspring of the man who had killed the 3rd Hokage live in Konohagakure, let alone keep it a secret. Naruto rationalized this on the grounds that Orochimaru's conduct had changed since before and he was aiding in investigating the Otsutsuki. Despite this, noting the unpredictable nature of Orochimaru, the meeting ended with deeming the Oto-born boy as a threat. As the council and Hokage continued to talk about how to best deal with this, Shikamaru continued to express his approval of Naruto's actions. When Konohamaru requested that he be sent to retrieve Boruto and Sarada, who left the village to go after Mitsuki, Shikamaru denied it, as his conflicted feelings about Mitsuki meant he couldn't be objective in the mission. As questions continued to build up on Mitsuki, Naruto and Shikamaru felt the situation didn't make sense for Mitsuki to betray them. They began wondering if the enemy's goal was Mitsuki himself because of his unique background. They received word that one of the guards was recovering and would soon awake to give them answers. The guard revealed the attackers were from Iwagakure and were en route to the land of Earth, and Sai reported that the jutsu that injured Yorito was explosive clay. As Naruto contacted Kurotsuchi about the situation, Shikamaru began wondering why the enemies had such an interest in Mitsuki. Later, as talks about what to do about Mitsuki's apparent betrayal continued, it was reluctantly determined that they would have to place extreme punishment on Mitsuki. Overhearing this, Konohamaru insisted he be the one to bring Mitsuki back, which Naruto reluctantly agreed to. As Naruto contacted Iwagakure again for an update, he was told that Kurotsuchi left on an important mission. After hearing this, Naruto and Shikamaru were now certain that something foul was happening in Iwagakure. Shikamaru's fears were proven correct when Shikadai contacted his father via phone, revealing that Iwagakure was taken over as part of a plan by Onoki. When Shikamaru told his son to stay hidden, Shikadai insisted that he figured out enough to make a move against the enemy. The call was then cut short as the enemy forced Shikadai to retreat. Knowing they couldn't act hastily, Shikamaru talked with the other officials and decided that he would join Naruto in meeting the other daimyo to get their support on engaging this personal matter. After finally getting approval, Naruto and an escort moved out, leaving Shikamaru in charge during the Hokage's absence. Before leaving, they were confronted by Team 7's fellow genin. Having learned of their friend's danger, they were determined to help and requested to join the Hokage. While Naruto initially refused to put the genin in danger, the group firmly said that they will go with or without his approval. Admiring their loyalty to their friends, Naruto decided to let them, impressing Shikamaru. Later, the chaos in Iwagakure was subdued, but also came with the passing of Onoki. This left Shikamaru in charge for a while longer, while Naruto went to the late Tsuchikage's funeral as a representative for Konohagakure. Upon Naruto's return, while Mitsuki was pardoned for his apparent betrayal on the grounds that he saved Iwagakure from the fabrications, the Team 7 genin were stripped of their shinobi status for having deserted the village. Later, however, thanks to support and gratitude from Kurotsuchi, it was agreed to restore the students to their shinobi status. Later, as the elder sister of the 5th Kazekage, Tamari was invited to join Gaara at the Wind Daimyo's banquet. Shikamaru, however, chose not to attend as he felt his duties as chief advisor to the Hokage were more important. Enchu Nara, the elder advisor of the Nara clan, was deeply annoyed that Shikamaru, as head of the Nara clan, would not be joining. He voiced his disdain at how much the Nara clan appeared to be slipping since the 4th Shinobi World War and the constant gossip of the Land of Wind that the Nara clan was not worthy of the unity between the Kazekage clan ever since Shikamaru married Tamari. Shikamaru insisted that such gossip was irrelevant and that he worked earnestly to progress his clan. Later, Shikamaru learned that Enchu approached Shikadai with the offer of going into politics under the teachings of the Fire Daimyo to better the reputation of the Nara clan. Trusting that this was what his son wanted, Shikamaru decided not to get in the way. However, the following day, Shikadai decided to decline the offer, instead deciding to prove the worth of the Nara clan by mastering the various wind release techniques from his mother, along with the Nara hidden techniques. Konoha Shiden, Steam Ninja Scrolls. On the day of the 5 Kage summit in Konoha, Shikamaru saw Mirai off as she was tasked with accompanying Kakashi and Guy on their journey. He encouraged her to make good use of her late father's blades. When she attempted to make the correct guess on his quiz about who the true king is, he again told her she was wrong. Later, after Mirai returned from her mission, which included saving young girls from the remnants of a near-forgotten Jashin cult, he was happy to hear Mirai finally figure out the right answer for the quiz. One Tail Escort Arc. In the anime, Shikamaru received a message from Sasuke via his hawk revealing the current location of Urashiki Otsutsuki. Later, Shikamaru and Naruto were surprised with the delivering of Shukaku from Gaara, explaining Urashiki's intent to capture the tailed beast. While Shikamaru and Naruto were concerned about the events and learning Boruto was there, Sasuke quickly appeared, revealing that he had already saved Boruto and that Urashiki had disappeared. In addition to setting up a Kage summit to deal with the potential danger to the other tailed beasts, it was decided that Shukaku would, for the time being, remain in Naruto's care. Time Slip Arc. In the anime, Shikamaru and Naruto later learned that Urashiki was on the move again, being even more indiscriminate in his stealing of chakra. Soon after, while pleased that all of the 5 great shinobi nations were on alert and willing to share all intel on Urashiki, Shikamaru voiced his concern about Mirai's sudden disappearance, and also wondered what the alien foe's true goal was to gather all this chakra. Later, it was decided to test new surveillance equipment designed to follow their location. During the field test, Urashiki was spotted in the area. This prompted most of the Konoha nin in the village to engage, while Shikamaru stayed in the Hokage office to help protect Naruto. Meanwhile, the grown-up Sasuke and Boruto were sent back in time to shortly after Sasuke's defection. There, the two pretended to be traveling performers but were put under watch by Naruto, during which past Shikamaru and his friends helped Boruto and Naruto clean up a bathhouse after the commotion Naruto and Jiraiya caused. Days later, Shikamaru and the rest of his team invited Boruto and Naruto to join them in an after-mission barbecue dinner at Yakiniku-Q. Noticing how concerned Naruto looked, Shikamaru reminded his friend to come talk to him if there's trouble before it escalates, which Naruto acknowledged. Days later, Konohamaru, Moegi, and Udon approached Shikamaru and his friends for help, telling how Naruto and Boruto were battling a dangerous foe. They quickly agreed to help, determined not to lose another friend after Sasuke. By the time they arrived, however, Urashiki was already defeated. The group then escorted their injured friends to the hospital. Days later, after Sasuke and Boruto recovered and prepared to return to their time, Sasuke first used his Sharingan to erase the memories of everyone he and Boruto came in contact with of the recent events to protect the timeline. Sometime later, back in the present, Sumire was officially transferred to join the Scientific Ninja Weapons team. Naruto reached out to the Land of Iron and requested an exchange student to take her spot on Team 15. Shikamaru was concerned about his experimental move of mixing shinobi with samurai, but Naruto insisted it would help close the gap between the two. Shikamaru Shinden, a cloud dancing in forlorn falling petals. The morning after drinking alcohol and smoking tobacco, Shikamaru woke up in his house smelling of cigarettes and greeted Shikadai, who informed him that Temari was in a bad mood. Greeting his wife in the kitchen, he was ignored. Dragging himself to have a bath, Shikamaru cleaned himself before getting dressed. Presented with food by Temari, Shikamaru apologized for forgetting to eat dinner together the night before and complimented her food. As the two began talking, Temari reminded him that he had forgotten their wedding anniversary yesterday, which was due to preparing for the upcoming 5 Kage summit, prompting Shikamaru to apologize. Shikamaru then left to the Hokage building before being late for work. At the Hokage building, Shikamaru attended the Kage summit with Naruto and listened to the Kage bicker about topics concerning Konoha. During the meeting, Kurotsuchi demanded Konoha to disclose all of its confidential information as the village's proof to peace, and said Iwagakure would leave the 5 Great Shinobi Country Alliance if they didn't. As the meeting ended, Shikamaru found the situation troublesome. Afterwards, Shikamaru met with Hinoko and Ro to organize them to infiltrate Iwagakure to see if there's something going on in the village to explain Kurotsuchi's attempt at disturbing the peace. Intending to visit Onoki during the mission, Shikamaru waited at the Land of Earth's border, where he was approached by a security team of shinobi and escorted to the Kage's house. Mujina Bandits Arc. In the anime, Shikamaru was part of the briefing of Team 7's mission to infiltrate Hozuki Castle to verify the information about the Mujina Bandits offered by Kokuri in exchange for protection. Ultimately, the mission was a success, freeing Kokuri and gaining his information on the Mujina Bandits, albeit they were unaware that Kokuri was in fact killed by Shoujoji and used his appearance to escape. Several months later, Shikamaru helped prepare Naruto for a meeting with Ikkyu Maruka, the Fire Daimyo, during which he and Naruto discussed financial matters. Kara Actuation Arc. Later in the anime, Team 25 and Sasuke were sent to investigate the information extracted from the captured Shoujoji about Kara's existence in Amegakure. Upon their return, they reported that Kara had long ago abandoned their facility there and were performing biological experiments. They also learned that there were in fact civilians who sympathized with Kara and its goals. Later, they learned that Victor, president of the Land of Valley's premier medical and research company, was in fact a member of Kara. Knowing he had somehow acquired a sample of the first Hokage's cells, Shikamaru decided to use connections in the Land of Valleys to get permission to investigate Victor's company. 3 days later, he got the approval to send a team to stealthily investigate. Later, after Team 10 returned from a joint mission with Shinki's team to retrieve Urashiki's puppet, Shikadai reported about their attack from Deepa, the same man who assaulted Team 7. This news greatly concerned and disturbed Shikamaru. Following the defeat of Victor, who was revealed to be a member of Kara, Konoha leadership discussed on how to handle the shadowy organization, knowing now that even influential people in the world could be associated with the enemies. Also learning of Kara's various collaborators, outers, they considered closing off the gates to Konohagakure to stop the flow of information. Naruto was torn on this, asking for a day to think it over. Ultimately, as Shikamaru suspected, Naruto decided not to close the gates as it would deter cooperation with the outside world, instead deciding to reinforce security. Ao Arc. In the anime, Shikamaru attended the memorial service for the fallen people of the Fourth Shinobi World War, where he and Ino reminisced on their father's death. At the end of the memorial service, he met Ao, the sole survivor of the Ten Tails attack on the Allied Shinobi Forces HQ. Knowing he worked beside his father, Shikamaru asked if Shikaku really believed Shikamaru and the others could defeat the Ten Tails with his final plan. Ao assured him that his father never had any doubt about Shikamaru's abilities and was proud of him to the end, leaving Shikamaru truly grateful. When Naruto decided to test Katasuke Tono's new scientific ninja weapon, Shikamaru and Sai watched Naruto test it against Boruto at the training hall. During the match, Shikamaru applauds Boruto for using his shadow clone technique in order to get behind his father. After Naruto defeats his son, he reveals that he was using a prototype for a new weapon based on Momoshiki's ninjutsu absorbing power. As Boruto began to get angry for feeling the match was unfair, Sasuke soon arrived and explained the need of the weapon, noting the coming danger of enemies like the Otsutsuki clan. Naruto then has Team Konohamaru take a C-rank mission to escort Katasuke to Ryutan City. Kawaki Arc. When Team 7 found a mysterious boy named Kawaki with connections to Kara, they brought him back to Konohagakure. While the boy was greeted with kindness when he woke up, he quickly tried to run away, only for Shikamaru's shadow paralysis to stop him, insisting that it was perfectly safe. Afterwards, Shikamaru spoke privately with Naruto, insisting that it was too risky to leave the boy inside the village or to go about freely, as in addition to his great power and being a target for Kara, he could very well be a spy. Naruto, however, insisted that they treat Kawaki as a guest, seeing the boy as very much like he was as a child, being feared for the power within. Following protocol, Naruto called forth a Kage summit. As Katasuke explained his analysis of the boy's uniquely remodeled body, talk about the boy's fate began. It was unanimously decided to treat the boy with sympathy, as they were no strangers to children being made into weapons. It was also agreed for the boy to live with Naruto, who would watch over him at all times, which Kurotsuchi was impressed at how much multitasking Naruto could do through his shadow clones. As Kawaki began opening up to people, Naruto decided to teach him ninjutsu at his request. During training, Sai and Shikamaru discussed whether or not they could really trust Kawaki, Shikamaru finding others naive for trusting Kawaki too much. Sai informed him of the intel recovered by Konohamaru, and that it had been passed along for Sasuke to investigate, as space-time ninjutsu was required. Following the dangers associated with Kawaki and the enemies after him, Shikamaru told Shikadai to maintain a certain distance from Kawaki. Later, when Jigen arrived in the village through Kawaki's coma and took Naruto into another dimension, Shikamaru quickly acted upon Kawaki, detaining him while having a team use a 4 Violet Flames formation to lock down the area while he interrogated Kawaki about the recent events, openly voicing his distrust of them since the beginning. While Boruto vouched for Kawaki, the boy decided to accept Shikamaru's authority, admitting the logical theory of the situation. Shikamaru wondered why, if Naruto was defeated, why Jigen hadn't returned yet. He theorized that they were either still fighting or Jigen was weakened too much to return. However, Kawaki's prosthetic began reacting. Realizing that Naruto was still alive, but detained, Kawaki reattached the arm and decided to test a theory. By synchronizing his Mark Kama with Boruto's, they were able to produce the same rift Jigen had done earlier. While Shikamaru refused to let Kawaki or anyone enter the rift, Kawaki used his Kama to escape Shikamaru's technique while he and the Genin entered the rift to find Naruto. Shikamaru disapproved of their recklessness and was informed that while Sasuke had been located, he was injured and in no condition of using space-time ninjutsu to follow Kawaki and the other Genin, worrying Shikamaru. After the Genin returned with Naruto, Shikamaru briefed him on what he had missed. He also stressed the danger of Jigen's infiltration method and proposed tightened security on Kawaki. He was contacted by Ino, who informed him of Shikadai being taken hostage by Amado, who wished to talk to him. Shikamaru revealed Naruto's recovery, much to Amato's relief, and was told Amato wished to defect to Konoha, offering them intel on Kara, Jigen, their Ten Tails, and the Otsutsuki. Amato was detained, where despite his claims of seeking asylum, was very bold while being interrogated. As Shikamaru made his anger for the man known, Amato began explaining all he knew. He revealed how the Otsutsuki have since before recorded history been traveling from planet to planet, harvesting its chakra for the sake of evolving itself while destroying the planet in the process, using the Ten Tails. He also revealed that Jigen himself was turned into an Otsutsuki from being branded by his Kama of Ishiki Otsutsuki. Amato also revealed himself to have sabotaged the blimp to free Kawaki and likewise ensure that Sasuke would get the intel from Ishiki. Amato's glasses then began beeping. His glasses were taken off, revealing a holographic projection of Jigen talking with Kashin. They learned that Kashin and Amato were working together and that Kashin had intended to kill Jigen. As they watched the fight, Amato insisted in Naruto agreeing to his asylum deal, angering Shikamaru when he declared he'd only remove Shikadai's bomb when he has his deal in writing. When Sasuke pointed out an apparent inconsistency in Amato's explanation of how Kama worked, Amato's chuckle in response to it caused Shikamaru to grab him by the collar. Amato continued explaining the unusual circumstances regarding Jigen, eventually claiming he'd teach them how to kill the death-transcending Otsutsuki. When Jigen's death triggered Ishiki's resurrection in his body, Amato explained this also erased Kawaki's Kama to avoid duplicates, leading Shikamaru to realize that without any remaining Kama, Ishiki was vulnerable to a permanent death. After Amato was officially made a citizen of Konohagakure, aware of his rights and limitations, Shikamaru demanded he finally remove the bomb from Shikadai. Amato confessed he had bluffed, causing Shikamaru to finally calm down while snarkily praising Amato for being so thorough with his plans. Amato continued to explain their situation and suggested an evacuation. They were alerted of Ishiki's arrival. After an order was issued for civilians to evacuate the village and Shinobi not to engage the threat, Shikamaru joined Sai in taking Kawaki to an underground facility protected from Ishiki's Byakugan, ordering Amato to join them. Once secluded, Shikamaru resumed directing the Konoha forces via communication networks. He received reports that Boruto and Ishiki had disappeared, followed by Naruto and Sasuke. He pointed out to Kawaki that he was free, no longer being Ishiki's vessel, but Kawaki dismissed it as Ishiki still intended to rebrand him. He watched with interest as Amato observed Boruto's potential role in the fight against Ishiki. Amato explained that Boruto, as a wielder of Kama, was invaluable to Ishiki, as the god tree could only reach full maturity by sacrificing an Otsutsuki. Ishiki originally intended to sacrifice himself through Jigen and later resurrect again through Kawaki. But once Boruto was fully transformed by his mark, Ishiki could accelerate his plans by sacrificing Boruto instead. Shikamaru was disgusted by this tactic. Kawaki was furious at Amato's calm demeanor, demanding to know how much of this he's planned for. Shikamaru managed to calm him down. Chūnin Re-Examination Arc. In the anime, following Ishiki's attack, Naruto requested that Shikamaru reorganize the Chūnin Exams that were interrupted by Momoshiki's attack. Shikamaru acted as a proctor for the second exam. Shikamaru explained that for the final round, the finalists would have to face off against one another in one-on-one combat. Shikamaru dealt with a lot of paperwork to rebuild the arena before the finals. He watches the matches alongside Naruto and Sai. At the end of the second match between Wasabi Izuno and Iwabi Yuino, Shikamaru commented to Naruto that their bickering about becoming Hokage reminded him of Naruto and Kiba when they were younger. During the third match, after Sarada decides to commit herself against Chocho, Shikamaru, Sai, and Naruto comment on how the match improved. When Boruto and Mitsuki were absent after their names were drawn for the fourth match, Shikamaru recommended not giving them special treatment, so they were both disqualified. Days later, Mirai returned poisoned from what was supposed to be a simple escort mission with Konohamaru, and reported he had been taken prisoner by Hyogo. Shikamaru discussed the situation with Sai and Naruto, and they agreed to send Team 7 as reinforcements. They commented on the team's feeling regarding their last mission with Konohamaru as their captain. Shikamaru voiced his concerns about making Kawaki a genin, feeling that his modified body would be a prime target for enemies to go after. Naruto, however, insisted that for Kawaki to grow, he needed to experience the outside world and make friends along the way who would protect him. Because Kawaki fared poorly in D-rank missions with different teams, lacking teamwork, Shikamaru deemed him unfit for being a shinobi. He and Naruto agreed to assign him a C-rank escort mission as a final chance to qualify as a genin. He was concerned about intel of a recently discovered dead body, linking it to 5 other assassinations in other countries. Konohamaru later updated them that all victims were from the same country as the client of Team 10's mission, so they dispatched Team 7 as reinforcements as they were on a mission nearby. Great Sea Battle of Kirigakure Arc. In the anime, the Land of Water faced a civil war against the Funado clan. Team 5 and Team 7 accidentally found themselves caught up in it. Aiding Kirigakure, the teams were able to help end the war peacefully. Upon their return to Konoha, Shikamaru and Naruto informed them of the aftermath from Chojuro. Shikamaru later took care of Naruto's paperwork when he went on vacation with his family to a hot springs inn and explained the situation to Mirai. Kawaki and Himawari Academy Arc. In the anime, Shikamaru and Naruto assigned Kawaki a secret mission to protect Princess Kai Yukiwari from the Land of Bamboo while she attended the academy as an exchange student. They explained that her father discovered an assassination plot targeting his daughter and sent her there while he investigated the matter domestically, Kai herself unaware of the threat. Shikamaru later attended the entrance ceremony for the new academy class. Code Arc. Later, Shikamaru was relieved to get word that Naruto and the others had returned safely and defeated Ishiki. Shortly after, Shikamaru and Naruto decided to indefinitely take Boruto off active duty while deciding on how to deal with his kama, helping him pass time with various interviews from the media about his victory over Ishiki. After Amato finished restoring Kawaki's arm, he talked to Shikamaru and Naruto about the remaining Kara threats. Amato explained that once all the active inners are gone, the various outers will cease to function. He also noted that the Ten-Tailed Seed of Kara must be dealt with quickly to protect the planet, and has likely been moved since Ishiki's defeat, but fortunately there are methods for space-time traveling besides ninjutsu. Finally, Amato explained the looming danger of the last inner, Code. Despite proving incompatible with the Kama as a vessel, he survived the process to be imbued with its power. Also, despite his modifications granting him might that far exceeded Jigen's, Code's fanatical devotion to Ishiki let him avoid being disposed of, even agreeing to limiters being placed on him by Amato. As such, Code would inevitably seek out and kill all who were responsible for Ishiki's death. Hearing such a threat, Naruto requested Shikamaru to set up a Kage summit. During the talk with the other Kage via video, they reviewed the nature of Code and his goals. Shikamaru also noted that Code already destroyed all the transfer portals to the pocket dimension housing Ishiki's Ten-Tails. As the hunt for Code continued, they found claw marks left by Code near the outer wall of the village, which, based on Amato's intel, Shikamaru considered to work similar to the Flying Thunder God technique. The nature of their spread concerned him, and he wondered if they were decoys left with the intent to thin them out. Later, Shikamaru was contacted by Naruto, who informed him of Kawaki's evasion of surveillance and ability to conceal his chakra signature. He and Amato wondered how and why Kawaki left. Knowing the risk of Kawaki meeting Code, Shikamaru ran to Naruto's house, declaring that he would join Naruto in the retrieval since the Hokage no longer had Kurama for additional power. Using Sage Mode, Naruto managed to detect Boruto's chakra 40 kilometers away. Shikamaru asked Ino to keep full alert throughout the village and asked Naruto not to get reckless as he couldn't maintain Sage Mode for very long. Naruto, however, assured him that he could keep it up much longer than before due to years of experience. Shikamaru remained firm that Naruto must be cautious. They arrived in time to save Kawaki from having his arm broken by Momoshiki, Shikamaru pinning him with his shadow. Momoshiki absorbed his jutsu to free himself. When Code took Shikamaru hostage, he urged Naruto to ignore him and attack. Momoshiki decided to help kill Naruto, who was also a problem for him, and was surprised to see Kawaki absorb Momoshiki's attack with a new Kama to save Naruto. As Code kept muttering to himself, Shikamaru realized he was in contact with an ally. Shikamaru remained a hostage as Kawaki and Momoshiki fought, Kawaki reminding him of it mid-battle. When Naruto moved to save Boruto from Kawaki's attack, Code saw no point in killing Shikamaru but kept holding him. He was shocked as Boruto emerged and allowed Kawaki to strike him down. Code opted to leave and released Shikamaru. While Kawaki was overwhelming Code, he pulled Daemon through the claw mark of his face, reflecting Kawaki's attack and knocking him out before leaving. Shikamaru tried to snap Naruto out of his stupor and began to consider how to deal with Kawaki, arguing with Naruto who still wanted to support him. He was stunned when Boruto woke up, his injuries completely healed. Later, Shikamaru had Sumire check on Kawaki, still unconscious but completely healed, because he didn't trust Amato to be near him again. Ibiki questioned the lack of restraints on Kawaki, but with his new and restored abilities, Shikamaru felt that they had no actionable options, instead focusing on not antagonizing him over his simple goal of protecting Naruto. Sumire noticed the heavy atmosphere as Naruto expressed wishing a long conversation with Kawaki when he woke up, but Shikamaru attributed it to almost getting killed earlier. Sasuke arrived and shared new intel about Code's likely location with Shikamaru, an Otsutsuki cult hideout in the Land of Snow. Shikamaru confirmed to Sasuke the events following the battle with Code. Shikamaru checked on Amato by himself and got rough with him, questioning his singular fixation with Kawaki and his Kama. Code emerged from the claw mark on Shikamaru's neck, and Ino contacted him, having sensed Code's intrusion. He had her notify Naruto, but he said she shouldn't send reinforcements and to wait on his signal. He paralyzed Code with his shadow and revealed he knew of the mark on him, having baited him to come. He commanded a cyborg on Amato's lab awake and reprogrammed Delta, who pinned Code down. He removed Code's hand from a claw mark, thinking he was retreating, but he had reached to bring Ada through instead. Shikamaru noticed Amato's fear of Ada and was puzzled by Delta stopping her attack and obeying Ada's command. He requested backup through Ino and paralyzed Ada with his shadow, beginning to feel feverish. Noting the effect Ada was having on them, he asked Ino to link him with Amato, and warning him not to expose their communication, asked about her abilities. Amato did so and warned him against trying to kill her to end the effect, as resisting her could result in mental damage. She was amused by how much he resisted her until he relented. He was concerned about the danger Naruto and Sasuke would be in the room. Shikamaru recalled that Amato wouldn't fare well under torture and asked Ada her motives. He was surprised by her merely wanting Kawaki as a boyfriend, and contacted Ino to change the access codes to the room and stall the reinforcements. Instead, he offered her the option to join Konoha, so she could tell Kawaki how she felt. As Ada considered the offer, he informed Naruto outside that the door access code had been changed to prevent others from falling under Ada's allure through Ino's jutsu. When Ada was aware of this, Amato filled him in on the workings of her Senrigan. When Code resumed torturing Amato, Shikamaru reminded him that Code couldn't kill him before getting the command code. When they wanted to retreat to avoid Kawaki, Amato shared that Ada's allure wouldn't work on an Otsutsuki, leading to an argument between Amato and Shikamaru. He tried to hold Code and Ada there, but she had Delta interfere with his jutsu. After they left, taking Amato with them, Kawaki arrived through a vent, wishing to speak with Amato. Shikamaru also requested him to remove Code's claw marks. Later, he explained Ada's alluring ability to Naruto, Sasuke, Boruto, and Kawaki. He speculated on her status as a supposedly scrapped cyborg whose abilities exceeded Jigen's, and that she wasn't the only one active, recalling that Code used someone other than her to overpower Kawaki the previous night. Shikamaru argued with Kawaki over Amato's goals and the merits of discussing them, Kawaki deriding Amato as dead and Shikamaru as useless. However, Amato was alive and called Shikamaru on the phone, where he updated Konoha about removing Code's power limiters and the dissolution of his alliance with Ada, who accepted Shikamaru's offer and would also bring her brother Damon with her. After the call, Shikamaru decided to send Team 7 on a mission. Did you enjoy our video? Make sure to check out these other great videos from Miyamagi and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.